Today's video lesson is on compositions of functions. Okay, on Friday we worked with combinations of functions, and today we're going to be doing the same thing, except today is going to be the compositions. Now with the compositions, if I have two functions, the square root of x and x minus 1, the composition is taking f of g of x. Now that's the same thing as taking f of x minus 1. We're just substituting g of x in for the x. So f of x minus 1 is the square root of x minus 1. So if I wanted to find f at g of 2, f of g at 2, it would be the square root of 2 minus 1, which equals 1. And if we needed to find f of g at 0, and as you can see, this was a different way of writing this problem. There's a shortcut for f of g of x, and that would be writing it in this manner. And it looks, I always call it fog, but it's f of g of. For the next example, we're going to start with two new functions and find f of g of x and g of f of x. Now for our new functions of x plus 2 and 4 minus x squared, first we're going to find f of g of x. When we go to find f of g of x, that's taking f of g of x. So we're plugging function g in for f of x. That's going to equal 4 minus x squared plus 2. And that's going to simplify to 6 minus x squared for f of g of x. Now for g of f of x. Now we're going to take function g and then plug f of x in for that function. So that's going to equal 4 minus x plus 2 squared. So that will be 4 minus x squared plus 4x plus 4, which simplifies to negative x squared minus 4x, and that's g of f of x. My question for you is, does f of g of x equal g of f of x? In this case, does f of x equal g of x? And no, it does not. 6 minus x squared does not equal negative x squared minus 4x. Now we will find the domain of a composition function. Now to find the f of g of x for these two functions, we're going to be finding f of g of x. So that's going to equal square root of 9 minus x squared minus 9. So that's going to be 9 minus x squared minus 9, which equals negative x squared. Now you have to be careful when you're finding the domain of a composition function. Okay, now for this composition function, to find the domain, you would want to think that the domain was all real numbers. But since g of x actually had a domain of negative 3 to positive 3, so we would not have a negative underneath the square root sign, the domain of this new composition function is also negative 3 to 3. For the next problem, we will see if f of g of x equals g of f of x. Okay, first to find f of g of x, we're going to put the g of x in for x on f of x. Go through your simplifying. And f of g of x ends up equaling x. Now to find g of f of x, we put f of x in for x on g of x. And go through our simplifying. And we also get x. So on this problem, since they both equal x, f of x does equal g of x. Now, find the two functions that make the following composition function. Now, to express h of x as a composition of two functions, it's just a matter of letting one function equal x minus 2. The second function will equal 1 over x squared. So when we take the composition of f of x of g of x, we get 1 over x minus 2 quantity squared. Now you can do your classwork problems.